Yuffie Kisaragi is a ninja from Wutai, sent to Midgar under orders to sneak into Shinra headquarters to steal some super powerful materia. To do that, she's supposed to team up with the terrorist or freedom fighter group depending on your point of view, Avalanche. The whole point of the mission is to prove to Shinra that Wutai is not a nation to be taken lightly. But unfortunately, they sent a girl who's, to put it delicately, a bit of an idiot. She didn't remember exactly where she was supposed to meet up with Avalanche, so she snuck into the city in a mostly abandoned location that's full of some very dangerous creatures. Fortunately, while Yuffie's a bit of an idiot, she can actually fight, so she manages to make it to Sector 7 just in time to catch a news broadcast from Shinra. Recently, Avalanche attacked Mako Reactor number 5, but Shinra has managed to get everything back under control. They're still hunting for the culprit since they also blew up Mako Reactor number 1 a little while earlier. Yuffie's excited to see that Avalanche is putting in a bit of work against the giant planet-destroying corporation, but she thinks that she could do a better job, something she says way too loudly considering the fact that she's in a crowded area talking about committing acts of terror. Fortunately for her, her contact, a man named Jija, finds her, which isn't hard since she's the only person wearing a Moogle poncho, and takes her to the group's hideout. One of them anyway. He introduces her to some of the people she'll be working with, Polk, Nayo, and a guy named Billy Bob. But the person she was expecting to meet, Sonan, isn't there. He made it to the city a few days ago according to Nayo, but he's been enjoying himself out in the city, so there's no telling when he'll get back. Jiju wants Yuffie to wait at the hideout for Sonan while he heads off to pick up their Shinra IDs. The company treats all materia like weapons, so they'll probably have it stored somewhere in the advanced weaponry division, deep in the basement of the building, and Yuffie will need a fake ID to get in there. The building itself is the giant one in the middle of Midgar, so it's not exactly hard to find. But it is pretty hard to sneak into since it's highly guarded, and security is even more diligent than normal because of all the terrorist activity. It'll probably be a good idea for Yuffie to wait until things settle down a bit before she tries to breach their defenses. Instead of just sitting in the room, she wanders around the city a bit, and when she makes it back, Sonan shows up. He was trained to fight by Yuffie's father, but he'd never actually seen her before in person since she doesn't really like her dad all that much. She's completely different from what he expected, but he's perfectly fine with letting her lead the mission. A pigeon brings a message saying that some packages that Nayo's people have been waiting for have come in, and the spot to pick them up isn't that far away from there. Since they need to check out more of the city anyway, Yuffie and Sonan tag along. They have to go through a very rough part of town, which is why Nayo wanted them to come along anyway. Part of what they're picking up are more ID cards for Yuffie and Sonan, since you need a lot of them to get anywhere in Midgar. The entire place was built by Shinra, so the city runs like a very big office building broken into different sectors that can't be accessed without the proper credentials. While they're walking, they catch sight of Barrett and Tifa coming back to 7th Heaven after their attack on Reactor 5. And Barrett's pretty upset that the president of Shinra claimed that Avalanche was working with Wutai to carry out the attacks, all so they can justify retaliating against the nation. What's just as bad is the fact that a guy named Don Corneo has his people out looking for them. Barrett doesn't want to waste time on Corneo, but Tifa heads off to deal with him anyway. When Yuffie hears that they were the ones who blew up the reactor, she wants to chat with them. But since it's very likely that Shinra is after them, it would be a good way to ruin their mission fast if they get involved with that group. Nayo's not really a fan of the actions of Barrett's little subgroup of Avalanche, since they aren't all that worried about collateral damage as long as Shinra falls. But since the company did major damage to her home, Yuffie kinda agrees with them, which is part of why Nayo's group teamed up with Yuffie in the first place. They wanted to keep her from working with Barrett because that would have just increased the destruction they'd cause to Midgar. She wants to take Shinra down, but not at the cost of her home. She is a little curious about this so-called ultimate materia that Yuffie wants, but what it does doesn't necessarily matter all that much. Sneaking into Shinra's HQ and stealing their most precious possession will prove that even though they've hurt Wutai, they haven't beaten them yet. On the way to the pickup spot, some members of Corneo's gang go to recruit Nayo to be one of Corneo's brides, which means exactly what you think it does, so Yuffie with some backup from Sonan beats them up. But not because they were trying to take Nayo to become an OnlyFans model. It was more because they called Yuffie a little kid and weren't interested in her. I told you before that she was kinda dumb. Before the fight leads to anyone's death, another of Corneo's henchmen comes running up saying that a really hot chick fell right into their lap and she's actually eager to go with them to Corneo's mansion. They leave, which gives Yuffie and the others a clear place to wait for their contact, save for a guy who's wearing a robe and walking around with Mako poisoning, which is what happens when someone can't become a member of Soldier, or they fall prey to any number of Shinra's other experiments. Their contact shows up with Yuffie and Sonan's IDs for their train ride, but they'll still need Avalanche to help them get through security, so it's not time to infiltrate the Shinra building just yet. And plans change even further when a messenger pigeon with a note from Jija tells the three of them to meet him at the Sector 7 pillar fast. The three of them see him getting chased by some Shinra soldiers, so Yuffie and Sonon follow after them while Nio goes to tell the others what happened. The man is pretty good at running from the cops. Apparently he's done it before. The fact that he leads them through a monster-infested factory doesn't help their situation, but it doesn't help Yuffie catch him either since everything is trying to eat them all. His run causes the other soldiers to call for backup, and they eventually catch up to him and start trying to beat information out of him, so Sonon wants to cause a distraction while Yuffie frees him. But she doesn't understand that ninjas are supposed to be stealthy, so she jumps up into plain view and not only removes her Moogle poncho and shouts out her name, but she falls off of the beams. Fall damage apparently doesn't exist in this world either, so she doesn't die, and she gets the soldiers' attention like she needed to. That gives Sonon time to free Jija, but it also causes the guards to call in a giant armed robot centipede complete with a lot of weapons. Not really sure why Shinra decided to go with that design, but the thing does put up a decent fight. Still, it gets taken down by 2 people, so how good was the weapon really? Jija is fine and he's able to hand Yuffie what he got for them, employee ID cards that will let them walk right into the Shinra building and access any floor. He thinks the 2 of them should hurry up and do whatever they're planning, because he's heard that Shinra plans on destroying the entirety of Sector 7. That's not their issue, but he does plan on telling Barrett about it. Since that's taken care of, Yuffie and Sonon head back to Nio's base to get their help getting on the train, but while she was gone, Nio's base got discovered by the military. Fortunately, none of them were there to get caught, so Yuffie heads straight to the train. The train platform is packed, and since the Sector 5 attack, that station is outright closed, so the trains aren't running on schedule, which means when they do run, everyone tries to catch a ride, so Yuffie and Sonon squeeze into the very packed train. Yuffie isn't all that good with the motion of the train, which reminds Sonon of his sister Melfi. She would get sick on everything from boats to chocobos, and like Sonon, she had trained under Yuffie's dad, but near the end of the war with Shinra, one of their mechs attacked a crowd of people, and Melfi died trying to save them. That's why Sonon wants Shinra gone, and that's the least of their atrocities. At that very moment, President Shinra is talking to 2 of his executives, Heidegger and Reeve, about their plan to destroy Sector 7 entirely by dropping the plate onto the entire area, which would kill about 50,000 people. Reeve doesn't want to do it, but it's not up for debate. The president is going to do it, and there's nothing that anyone can do to stop it. The Shinra building is full of people, including reporters who are always annoying, but that makes it easy for Yuffie and Sonon to get on the elevator. And that's where things stop being easy, because Scarlet, one of the top brass at Shinra, gets on the elevator with them. She immediately recognizes them as being from Wutai and taunts them a bit, but for once Yuffie is smart enough not to take the bait. That doesn't change the fact that Scarlet locks them in and forces them to wander through her domain. She's the one in charge of the Advanced Weaponry Division, and she's gonna test her new toys on her foreign visitors. Sonon wants to kill her personally since her tech killed his sister, but there's no way to do that without going through the woman's gauntlet. She throws all types of stuff at the 2 of them, and she's somewhat impressed by their skills, but she's more interested in why they're there in the first place. For them to be as good as they are, they're clearly ninjas, so she wants her people to figure out what they're planning while still trying to kill them, of course. After wandering around a bit, the 2 of them finally come across what may be the material they're looking for, but it turns out to be a dud, and a perfect spot for an ambush. They survive the fight, something else that Scarlet and her people watch. With as much as Yuffie has blurted it out, Scarlet's people found out that the pair are after materia, which the woman thinks is completely insane. Scarlet figured they'd be after something more interesting, but since she knows, she decides to talk to them through a very large hologram that freaks Yuffie out. She sends them through another area, claiming that they'll find what they want there, but it's clearly a trap, one that they'll willingly spring. Scarlet sent the 2 of them into the area where they test their most dangerous equipment, and after they cut through it all, they reached the area where Scarlet wanted them to be so she could test her newest bit of battle armor. Despite having made an impressive weapon, it can't match the ninja's skills. Scarlet's already figured out what she should do better next time, and even though the machine was beaten, she's still not worried, because now that she's used the intruders for what she needed, she called for reinforcements, and they aren't coming just to detain them. She called for one of the more dangerous living weapons, a man named Nero, but of course she refuses to tell Yuffie and Sonon what she's done. She is a little shocked that Yuffie knows about the special materia that Shinra has been working on, but she figures that means there's a mole somewhere in the organization. But for the moment, that doesn't matter, since the materia isn't ready. They had to delay it to move forward with the plan to drop the plate on Sector 7. Then they'll blame Avalanche and Wutai. Yuffie wants to get more information out of her, but some of Shinra's more advanced soldiers show up, and the pair are forced to fight until they're pushed into a combat simulator that Scarlet sets to the highest setting, while Nero and the others wait outside of the door. The guy is insane and uses his very odd powers to kill his own allies because stories still haven't found a better way to show just how evil someone is other than having them kill their own people. Yuffie and Sonon overcome the weird computer-generated creatures and step out of the room to see all of the dead soldiers. Nero has killed even more of them, and because Shinra thinks of all of its people as nothing more than test subjects, some of their researchers stand outside of the room in what they think is a secure zone to observe the battle and to keep Nero contained. The fighting causes his powers to go out of control, so they try to restrain him, but he breaks free, puts Yuffie through a window in a way that definitely broke all of her, and kills the scientist for interfering, before going back to fighting Sonon and Yuffie. As the battle drags on, he grows more and more unstable, and the weird darkness that he's using starts to cover everything, but Yuffie and her partner manage to beat him. He seems happy to actually lose, so he disappears into darkness, but as soon as the pair gets to the elevator, he reappears and attacks them from behind. Yuffie doesn't see the attack coming, but Sonon does, and he gets impaled so Yuffie can escape. She's distraught over Sonon dying to save her, but things get worse as she makes it outside of the Shinra building just in time to watch the Sector 7 plate get destroyed, meaning it's very likely that everyone she'd met on her mission is dead. That just makes her more determined to take Shinra down. And fortunately, she's not the only one to survive. Barrett and his group made it out of the city too, and that means that if the remake follows the old game, Yuffie will meet them in a forest, steal their materia, and eventually team up with them in Wutai. The question is, will things follow the same path as before? We'll just have to wait and see, but for now, we've reached the end of this story. If you've enjoyed it, hit the like button, subscribe, ding that notification bell, and if you really want to show your support, you can donate to the channel through the link in the description. Until next time, guys, later.